London from Be Boldly Brilliant. So, welcome to today's Women Inspiring Women Facebook Live. Every Friday at noon, I will be here. And whether it's just me or with a guest, we're going to have lots of things for you to share and enjoy. And today, I'm really excited because I have a very special guest. I have Jordan Hamsley London, who happens to be my daughter-in-law. Isn't that pretty cool, guys? And so she is an amazing woman, and I'm so excited and thrilled to have a young woman on our Facebook Live who will tell us a lot about how to publish your book traditionally. I'm going to let her tell you more about her experience in book publishing, and she's going to share with you how you can do that. So lots to look forward to in this episode. All right, here we go. All right. Hi, Jordan. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
We're doing great over here and very excited to have you with me. Thank you so much for joining me. And I like to kick off these Facebook Lives with just a little intro. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to.
Yeah. So the thing I'm up to right now is I'm a new mom. You're a second-time grandmother now. So I have my 8-month-old daughter, Ellie, and she has been taking up a lot of my time the last 10 months or so. And I'm in the process of rediscovering how to find my way in terms of my career. But I am loving being a new mom and working at the same time as much as she'll let me. And so I am exploring new ways of becoming a publishing person from home. So I am currently a freelance editor focusing on children's books, picture books, middle grade novels, and YA novels, and continuing to work with my contacts back in New York City in the publishing industry on their novels and with their agents and editors to help them make the best books they can.
That's great. And tell our viewers a little bit about what you've done in the past.
So I got my start a little over 10 years ago interning for a literary agency because I was on a national tour doing a musical and realized that my hip was hurting and I couldn't dance anymore. And so I came home and I was sad and didn't know what to do with myself. And my boyfriend, now husband, your son, said, "You read a lot and you read really fast. How can you monetize that skill?" And that night I went online and looked up internships at publishing houses and literary agencies, found an application, applied that night, interviewed the next day, started the day after at a literary agency reading submissions. And then I spent the next year interning at publishing houses in the editorial departments and in the publicity department. And then about a year later, I got my first full-time job working at Penguin Young Readers in their mass market licensed publishing group, which focused on books for kids 0 to 12 with a lot of movie and TV tie-in work. So I worked on the Green Lantern movie books that came out a million years ago and the Madagascar 3 books, Batman Brave and the Bold. But then I also had the opportunity to do a lot of original fiction for children ages 5 to 12 in chapter book series like Dory Butler's The Haunted Library, Adam Tricastro's Gustav Gloom, and really became a fiction editor for kids. And then I moved on to other publishing houses where I really delved into the YA market and spent some time working with a Hollywood production studio, developing book ideas with them at the same time that they were developing the ideas for film. So I've kind of had a very Renaissance publishing career where I've been all over the place working with lots of different kinds of books and authors from all over the country. And now I'm just focusing on working with authors directly to prepare their books for submission to agents, or working with an author who needs to get their book a little tighter before their agent sends it on submission, and I'll work directly with the agent and the author. So it's a very interesting day-to-day experience because my morning I can be editing a picture book and working with an illustrator to decide what those pages should look like to tell the best story, versus then 2 hours later I'm reading a sexy YA novel trying to figure out the best romance angle to take, or how do we bring up the stakes to make the drama more exciting. So my days are very varied right now.
Awesome. Awesome. So, any entrepreneur like yourself, as a freelancer, you're going to have varied days, and, as the jobs come in, the jobs come in. That's very exciting. I love what you're doing right now and what you've done in the past. So tell our viewers, our topic was, how do you get a book published? If someone's watching either live now or in watching the replay, tell them how they could get started if they really wanted to have their book published traditionally.
Yeah. So the big thing to know is that there are a lot of books out there that are, say how to get published. And here's a big list of agents and editors and publishing houses. And it's a big fat book and it's going to cost you $20 or $30. Don't spend your money on the writer's market book. Just go online. Everything that you need to know about how to submit to agents is on the internet, and it is updated, because chances are anything that's made it into that book, the information is wrong within 2 months, 3 months, because the industry is moving so fast these days. So the main thing I would say is there are a few instances where you can probably get published without having an agent. However, in my world of children's books, you really got to have a literary agent. And so the first thing you have to do with that is look at what your book is and then research agents. The best place to find out about agents is Twitter. Honestly, my entire career has been built off of the relationships I've made with authors and agents on Twitter. There is a wonderful hashtag that is hashtag MSWL, stands for Manuscript Wish List. And agents and editors post what they're looking for. If they want a football novel or a horror novel for YA readers, they get very, very specific. And you can look and see, is there any agent who is actively looking for something that you are working on? And then there's another great website called publishersmarketplace.com. That does require a membership, but and I really only think it's worth paying if you're actively submitting. But it's another place where you can see every book deal that the agent has announced publicly, and it shows what kinds of books that they've sold to publishers. And it's a great way, again, to get a sense of what kind of agent they are in terms of what they like to sell. I do think you can see most of their pages that list some of their sales without having a membership, but it's definitely worth looking at. The main thing is you don't want to submit to an agent until your book is done, because most agents' submission guidelines are going to ask for 20 pages and a query letter. And there are so many fantastic websites that teach you how to write a query letter. My favorite is on publishingcrawl.com. There is a great, honestly, if you Google how to write a query letter, the Publishing Crawl post usually is on the first page. It's very detailed, and it's basically a bio of yourself, but then a short synopsis of your book, and it gives you an opportunity to hook the agent in. And this is not where you get to go into every single detail about what is so special about your book page by page. It's, my book is this meets that. You want to have an elevator pitch, 2 sentences that tell you what this book is, and then a paragraph or 2 giving us a bit of a synopsis. Then tell us about yourself. Do you have a platform? It's okay if you don't. I know that a lot of people think, oh, I only have 200 Twitter followers. I only have 5 Twitter followers. No one's going to give me a book deal. No one's going to sign me. It's all about the content and the quality of your work. It's wonderful if you have 1 million Twitter followers, but I have signed authors who aren't even on Twitter, who don't know how to use social media. If you're seeing this right now, You're ahead of them.
All right, that sounds great. I think that's really important information for everyone, that Twitter is the place to be. If you're thinking about getting an agent or publishing your book, you got to be active on Twitter. And I think it's so true that, depending on what profession you're in, the social media that's specific to your career growth is the social media you should be on. If your ideal audience is a book publisher or an agent, then you need to be on Twitter. If your ideal audience is, people who need coaching, then you need to be on Facebook, because that's where people are for that. You need to find what works best. So hope everyone paid attention there. Get on Twitter, all right, and get active in some of these things. And don't worry, we're going to put all these links down below when this Facebook Live is over for everyone watching and for the people who are watching on replay. The links will all be there in a description of what those links are. So you don't have to be frantic running for a pen and paper to write down all these links, okay? We will definitely put them in the comments. And if you have any questions for Jordan, be sure to ask those questions right now. Our comment feed is live. And so if you have a question, here you have a book editor, a very experienced book editor who can answer your questions. So if you have a question, be sure to put it down there. Awesome. Thank you. And just a reminder that this is Women Inspiring Women, where we have guests on to offer up information that will inspire you, motivate you, and kick your butt a little to get your job off the ground. All right. And it's every Friday at noon Eastern time in this Facebook Live page, which is Be Boldly Brilliant. All right. Back to Jordan. So Jordan, as those questions come in, come on, guys, ask some questions. We've got some great viewers here. It's really good to see you all on the show. So let us know what you would like to know. What other advice could you give people?
You want to read. You really want to know the market. I think that especially with children's books, the idea is, oh, it's for kids. It's easy. There aren't as many words. That's honestly not true, especially once you get into the YA novels. I've edited 160,000 word YA novels. They can be long, they can be dense, they can have very adult, difficult themes. You gotta know your market. And that goes into how you're speaking to agents and editors on Twitter and in your query letters. You really need to be able to show that you know where you fit in the market. You can't say, my book is the next Harry Potter, because no book is the next Harry Potter. No book is the next Twilight. No book is the next Hunger Games. Your book is the next your book. But we need to understand your book in the framework of what exists. So you have to say, my book is a little of this and a little of that. And you want to stick to books that have come out, honestly, in the last 3 years, so that it shows that you have a real understanding of where the market is now, not where it was 10 years ago. A lot of people who I meet at conferences who aren't really well read in the YA space will say, oh, it's all just Twilight. Twilight came out in 2008. Twilight is a dinosaur. You can't think that YA is all Harry Potter and Twilight, because it shows that you don't know the marketplace. Hunger Games is aging. Hunger Games is no longer the hot thing. So you need to be well read. Look at the New York Times bestseller list in your space. Read those books. Understand what about those books is selling. And it goes for picture books in particular. Those, you think, oh, it's only 32 pages. That's not more than 1,500 words at most. That's easy. It is so much harder to write a picture book than you think, because you have to take into account you're telling a story in fewer words. So every word matters. And one thing I'll say for picture books, if you have a picture book idea and you're not an illustrator, don't worry. You do not have to have an illustrator when you are querying agents. It's about the words. An illustrator will come along at some point. Usually a picture book is submitted to an editor without an illustrator, and then the editor works with their team in-house at the publishing house to determine who's the best illustrator for your project. So you don't even have to worry about the illustrations. You might want to have a few art notes here and there, but it's really about your story, and that's what will sell the book. If you are an amazing illustrator, then you become an author illustrator and you work with your agent to tell the best story visually with your text. But most picture book authors are literally just writing text. So don't feel like you need to find an amazing illustrator before you try and get that book to an agent.
Okay, that's great. Again, incredible information for everyone. And we have a question here that we can answer. This question is from Phil Brakefield. And the question is there an average number of rejections one can expect before a book is accepted?
Oh, I wish there were.
Talk to us about rejections.
Oh, rejection is so hard. And editors and agents get rejected too. You just don't think about it. So I wish that there were an easy answer to this, because what you hear about are these 1 in a million stories. Oh, I sent my query to an agent, or I sent my query to 15 agents. All of them loved it, and they all were fighting. And I had to have calls with all of them in 2 days, and I picked my perfect dream agent, and they sent it to these publishers. And 5 days, 5 minutes later, I had a book deal from HarperCollins, and it was 6 figures, and now I'm going to be rich. That is so not the norm. But those are the stories that get the press. And the average book is going to be rejected by a bunch of agents. You might only get one agent interested, but it's going to be the right agent for your book. And I think that's the most important thing, because a lot of things that happen on Twitter is people going, "You're my dream agent. I see that you sold my favorite book. I need you." But they may not be the right person for you. And that's why you have to do that research and see that there are so many agents out there who do what you do. And you want to talk to them and find out why they want to publish or sell your book. And the same thing with editors. I've had books that I've bought that have been on submission for over a year before the agent ever gets it to me. And then I'm the one who goes, "I know how to make this book better. I know how to sell this book." And it really is all so subjective. And it's about finding the right agent who's going to properly sell your book and who knows the right editor. And it can take a year. It can take a year to get an agent, and then it can take a year of revision with that agent, and then it can take a year on submission, and then it can take a year or two before your book comes out. It can take a long time, but it's about having the right person working with you on your story. And so there's no average, because it's all about the quality of the book and the relationships.
Awesome. So thank you. And Phil had a little comment too. I think that's really important. And thank you, Phil, for being here, and thank you for watching. And again, we're open to all kinds of questions. If you have a question, you have a very experienced book agent and a book editor here. And so ask your questions. Now's the time. So Phil's is commenting that what Jordan is describing about knowing your market holds true for any business. And I think that's very, very true. We all need to know our market if we're going to be successful in business. So great point, Phil. Thank you for bringing that up to our attention. All right. So Jordan, let me ask you this. We're kind of getting down to the last 10 minutes here. What's your favorite book? And you can tell me your favorite children's book, your favorite novel, maybe tell me the book you're reading now. Just tell me about your personal likes about books.
There's so many. These are the hardest questions for a book editor, to not get super self-promotional also.
It's okay. You can do that. That's what Inspiring Women's all about. I like to bring people on and let them talk about who they are, what they do, and really promote themselves, right? Inspire us by what you do.
So I have to say that I never thought when I was first going into publishing that I would become a children's book editor. I really wanted to be an adult science fiction fantasy editor. And then I fell into this job in children's books and realized that it is my home. And then the more time I spent working, the more I realized that I had always loved these books, because when I would get the question, what are your favorite books? It was always these middle grade novels that I read in elementary school. The first was The Egypt Game by Zilpha Keatley Snyder. That's a classic. And I try and go back and read it every 3 to 5 years just to reinvigorate me, because it is such a wonderful example of a classic middle grade novel. And you can still have those kinds of classic voices in middle grade today. I also love Wait Till Helen Comes by Mary Downing Hahn. I have a reputation in the industry of being the horror girl for children. I scare kids for money, basically. And that's the first book that really scared me as a kid. Also a very, very old book. This is not a good example of what's hot today. But they're the books that speak to why I want to work for kids. And then I'm currently, it's very hard to read these days because Ellie is always on top of me and I'm either working or nursing. But I did just buy John Green's new book, Turtles All the Way Down, that came out on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to reading that. He wrote The Fault in Our Stars. He's a very big YA author. One thing I'll say is the best book I've read this year is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. It's a YA novel that is a really great example of using Twitter to your advantage, because it's a novel written by an African-American woman taking on the themes of the Black Lives Matter movement. And she approached an agent on Twitter during a manuscript wish list day, #day on Twitter, and said, would it be okay to submit a novel using themes around Black Lives Matter? And she asked the specific agent on Twitter. He said, email me within, and this is one of those stories that is an outlier, but within 3 weeks, she'd signed with them. They went on submission. 13 houses made offers, and now it's being made into a film. It's been on the Times list for months, but it is a book that is so well written and so deep. I was crying on the couch. It's worth reading. And I would look at any information that's been online about this publishing process, because it is an outlier, but it's an amazing story of using Twitter as a way to get your book published, because she knew which agent to send that question to, and he was the right person for her.
So is this the correct Twitter address for you? I just want everyone to know that they can reach Jordan at twitter.com, the Jordache, Jordache. So if you need to reach her and want to ask more questions or find out more, just send a tweet to Jordan and she'll respond. So thank you so much, Jordan, for everything that you've been talking about. We had some links that we were going to share with people to help them out. Can you tell me a little bit about them? I know that one of them was Query Tracker.
Yes. So Query Tracker is another great asset in finding agents, because it's where most agents are actively updating what their submission guidelines are, if they're open to submissions, when they're reopening to submissions. Every agent kind of has a different little thing about their submission guidelines. You need to make sure you follow each agent's specific guidelines. Don't do a mass query that says, Dear Agent. Personalize them. Personalize your query so that it says, I follow you on Twitter. I know this, I know that. You represented this book. It's similar to my book. But Query Tracker really is a great way to track your queries and know who is open to submissions and what they're looking for.
Okay, awesome. And then we had the SCBWI.
Yes. So SCBWI is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. It's a very complicated acronym for me to remember. And it is a fantastic resource if you are writing anything from picture books to YA novels. There is a local SCBWI chapter anywhere you live, in Europe, in America, all over the world. You're going to find your local SCBWI chapter, and they have writing workshops. It's a wonderful community that you can find locally, and every single region, at least once a year, brings in agents and editors from New York, from the Bay Area, from everywhere that has a publishing hub. They fly them in so you can meet real agents and editors. They can look at your work. They'll do critiques. And you get to really understand the industry in these wonderful weekend-long conferences. And so it's my go-to place for anyone looking to do children's books. Find your local chapter, because it will become your home, and you will just make the connections that you need. You'll find your local critique group, which I think is huge.
That's awesome. Awesome information. Yeah, for anyone who really wants to get involved in this area. Okay, and then tell us about readsy.com.
So Readsy is where I am conducting a lot of my freelance business. It's a fantastic website for people looking for freelance editors, designers, marketers. If you're self-publishing, Readsy is a wonderful place to go. You can find someone who's going to edit your book. You can find someone to proofread, copy edit your book, design your book, market your book. You can find all of these people on this website, Readsy. And it's a great place. And even if you're not self-publishing, but you want someone to do a pass on your book before you send it to an agent, come to me on Readsy. And it's a fantastic website. You can look at everybody who is currently available to edit. They have very detailed profiles with backgrounds and resumes. You can interact and communicate with the editor before you hire them. And it's just a great place to get some extra help if you want to spend the money to get an extra pass on your book before you submit it. Or if you're going the self-publishing route, you can basically pay for everything that a publisher is going to do, with the exception of sales and marketing, for your book on Readsy.
Awesome. Awesome. So again, we're going to put all these links in the comments below. So be sure to come back. And if you missed a little bit of this episode, then you'll want to catch up and watch the replay, and you'll understand what all these links are and how they can help you in getting your book published. And then I'm going to put up the Twitter handle again for Jordan Hamsley London, who is a book editor, and she can be found on twitter.com at the Jordash. And you want to connect with her, at least go in there and find out more about how you can get your book published. All right. So Facebook Live, Women Inspiring Women, is a 30-minute noontime, lunchtime kind of show. So we're going to come to an end here. Any last questions, be sure to ask them now. But otherwise, I'm going to say thank you to all the viewers and live. There was like 11 today, so that's great. That's a big increase for us. And we just started the Women Inspiring Women show just a few weeks ago. And a big shout out to all the replay people who are going to be watching this on replay. We're glad you did. And always ask your questions. If a question comes up, ask them in the comments. I check back every couple of days to see if there's any new questions, and we will get your question answered. So if you think of that later on, we will definitely answer your question for you. Again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jordan, so much for being here and sharing so much information. I had no idea that Twitter was the place to be if you're interested in getting your book published traditionally. So that's a wealth of information just there. We covered so much. And again, thank you for watching, and thank you, Jordan. And we'll see you next. All right. Any last words?
Believe in yourself. Find the right person for your story. Don't try and copycat anybody else's experience.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Friday at noon. Bye-bye.